Like the fire, feel the beat. Gday Gridiron can't be beat. Nick and Ian bring the heat. Brad's the MVP elite. From the outback through the field, we got tackles hard to steal. Catch the passes, make it real. Gridiron warriors never kneel. G'day Gridiron, down under and beyond. G'day Gridiron, yeah, the podcast come on strong.
G'day Aussie Gridiron fans, and welcome to the G'day Gridiron podcast, brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network. Week 15 is upon us, and the G'day Gridiron crew are back in the studio to go through some Week 15 previews that we've picked out from an amazing slate of games. Nick and Brad are with us tonight. And we're going to talk not just game previews in the NFL, but we're going to touch on, or give a little bit of a touch up to the college football playoffs, which have been announced this week, and have a little bit of chat about something that happened just in the last couple of days, which could affect the layout or just 2025 in the NFL as well. So let's start off with Brad. Your Ducks got number one seed.
Yes. How about that? It's finally a team that I love and have been following forever is doing something right, because Lord knows the Cowboys are never going to get there. So yes.
1 out of 2 ain't bad for this season.
Yeah. Well, and then in the basketball, my Blazers, forget that. So
That's 3. So 1 out of 3. The odds are getting worse, Brad.
So
Who do you follow in baseball?
Baseball, I do the Mariners. Never done anything. So yeah.
1 out of 4.
We're back at 25% now.
Exactly.
A lot is riding on the Ducks.
Nick, San Francisco 49ers won a game as predicted and destroyed their seed chances for the draft. Well done to the 49ers.
Yes, and we said this last week that
we
probably screwed this up somehow.
We knew it would happen.
Oh, look at that!
It's just, and you know, I don't think there's maybe one more win, if that. I don't think they win. Well, by the time this airs, I don't think they would have won by now. Maybe because Arizona are falling apart. Maybe that's the game that they might win at the end, but I can't see them winning another game from here, and really there's no need to. They're down to 4-string running backs. You know, Trent Williams, they should put him on ice. They should put Nick Bosa on ice as well. Just put all these guys on ice, just finish the season off. But I must admit,
run Debo as a running back.
I must admit, try and prop up his trade value. I must admit though, it would be nice to sort of disrupt some playoff chances for the Rams or something like that. I know Isaac's listening. Yes, you know, even though we're still tanking, we still want to fucking beat you. So, you know.
Well, that's probably where the win will come.
Oh, God.
You know, but at least the Cowboys know how to lose games. That's for sure. Don't they, Brad?
Yeah. Well,
they had the Chicago plague.
I can do all this. When I'm at 11-2, I can say this shit. And
absolutely. Enjoy it.
You wouldn't hear a peep from me if we were losing games, but we're 11-2 and still second in the division. Insanity.
Isn't it absolutely wild that your team has, you know, just a phenomenal year, and you might not even win the division?
I know. I saw a bit of a meme today. And I'm going to paint a picture. You know, on your rearview mirror, sometimes they have the sticker that said objects in mirror
appear larger,
appear closer than they are, right?
Yeah.
So it's in the mirror, you can see like a little Viking running in the mirror, and a guy looks, and then there's like a bigger Viking, and it's just the Lions. The Lions are just sitting there. And he goes, "Come on, man!" It's like objects in the mirror need you to lose, otherwise we're going to be 15-2 and second in the division.
Yeah, yeah. Could you? That's got to be a record.
If we win out, we're going to be 15-2.
15-2 and second in the
Surely,
division.
surely there's never been a second place team in a division that's only lost 2 games.
Well, that's what
surely
I was saying.
it's never
It's got to
happened.
be a record. It's
even-
I would love to know that stat.
Even the 16-week seasons when there was like 16 games and even 14 wins, surely it's never happened.
I don't think it would be like that when you went back to the 12 seasons, mate. Like when you go way back in time when there was half the teams.
Yeah.
I don't think that would have happened.
That's insane.
It's insane. It is insane. So, I don't know. Anyway, I can talk shit when I'm 11-2. I can still talk shit when we're 11-3 as well, but I don't want that to happen this week. We need to keep winning. Just need those. Someone needs to beat the Lions. For God's sake, someone needs to beat the Lions.
I really thought it was going to
Could be you
happen
guys.
this last weekend, but
I think it'll be us in week 18, but we need someone to beat them before then so that week 18 is actually meaningful.
well, if you
Well-
beat them in week 18, do you win the tiebreaker?
No.
Oh.
Maybe. Yes, but someone else in the NFC, so someone in the next couple of weeks needs to beat them for that to happen.
Who was the other team? Oh no, it was the Rams. No, so hang on. I'm trying to do the tiebreakers in my head. Nah, I don't think. But if you both have the same division record and they're both conference record, I wonder how it then gets decided.
Oh, there's a
Common
it goes,
opponents or something like that?
Manjot and I went through this last season. I can't really remember it. Usually teams don't get past the conference record being able to sort it out. So
Yeah.
tie breaks.
Because technically, if you guys beat them in week 18, then like Detroit lost to Tampa, and the other non-division NFC team you lost to was the Rams. So, like, I don't know, how does it work from there?
So head to
Interesting.
head. So it's head to head. Best one lost in the division, then common games, and then conference. So those ones. So best one loss tied percentage in common games. So it's assuming that that's the
Common
division pretty
games.
much. But there's also the other common games would be the other teams we play from other divisions. Then it's conference, and then it's strength of victory in all games,
Strength of victory.
and then strength of schedule. In
Oh, so
all
it'll be the
games.
Lions. That'll
So
be
it
the
goes-
Lions.
Yeah.
It goes deeper and deeper. So
Yeah, so that'll be the Lions then. So they
so it preferences. Yeah, so it preferences the team that were at the top, basically that had the hardest strength. So
Yeah, and they had a first place schedule too. So
yeah, so it gets more muddy once you go past conference. That's what we'd realised last season. But all right, I mentioned it at the top of the show. We said we're going to do a little bit of college playoff talk. Of course, the college football playoff bracket rankings all came out during the week, and it was big talk. It actually came out last Sunday in the US, so Monday our time. Our time, it was somewhere around, I believe, around 3 a.m. So literally about an hour to an hour and a half before games kicked off, I think. Or it might have been 45, might have been closer actually, because there was a lot of big media people in the NFL world were bitching about it a bit because it was like a crazy thing where they had like about a 40-minute window where they released it, and then the NFL games kicked off. So it's like once again, NCAA not knowing how the hell to do anything in college football, and just destroyed all of their marketing by releasing it at the exact wrong time on a Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a genius to know that the NFL is king. I don't care if you do have this new playoff format. You do not go head-to-head with the NFL. On
Not with
anything.
Sunday game day. It's just
On anything. It's just stupid.
you could probably do it on Thursday night football or Monday night football, and people would still be talking about it because they're island games. But when you're talking about Sunday football, like literally 12 hours worth of football, like it just disappears into the ether.
Yeah.
Like that's the time to drop like scandalous news, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Scott Hansen's just going to come out of the try box and just going to go, breaking news, Bill Belichick to UNC.
So,
right.
And the Seahawks have scored another touchdown, you know? So,
Yeah.
And the Cowboys still suck.
Let's go quad box.
Yeah.
So the rankings came out this week. As we mentioned, Brad's Ducks are number one in the country, college football. This the new playoff bracket, Brad. I need to start on that, I guess. Awesome. The whole thing. There've been teams in lower teams no one thought was going to get anywhere in terms of or beating like Big Ten teams beating Pac-12, etc. Like that way, and vice versa. Like it's just chopping around. There's teams winning games that would have no business winning games in previous seasons, wasn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's just awesome. We talk about the ineptitude of the NCAA, and they've demonstrated that for over the last century. Just a quick rundown. I won't get too much.
I think some of those guys are a century old as well.
It's just ridiculous. It really is. The fact that it's taken this long to get to a proper playoff format is absolutely insane. Because for the majority of last century, it was the national champion was decided by polls and rankings. And then in '98, they introduced what's called the BCS Bowl Championship Series, which guaranteed that number one versus number two would always meet up in a bowl game. And they did that for a few years. And then in 2012, they instituted a college football playoff, which turned into a four-team playoff. And then, of course, now here we are. That they instituted that in 12. It came into effect in 14, and now here we are 10 years later. We've actually got a proper playoff.
Yeah. So it's taken a century for someone to say, why don't the winners of each of the divisions, the different divisions, go through and have a first round bye, and then we rank all the second place teams, and then they become the first round ones. Like it's like, how's it taken that long to figure out that should be the scenario?
Because just like what you said, you got these old curmudgeons, that just want to sit there and brush their dentures and eat the poo out of their diaper. And sorry, I don't mean to paint that gross of a picture, but it's just, I should say eat the corn out of their diaper. But it's just disgusting what they've been doing. So I'm so grateful that we've got a proper playoff. And in fact, I think they'll expand it even more. There's already talk about, going from a 12 to a 14 or 16 team playoff, which I think they need to do. So
I think it's, you can see, and this is from an outsider's perspective. I haven't watched a lot of college football over the years, but you could tell this year that there was at least, because they gave teams something to strive for and a guaranteed pathway.
Yes.
Smaller market teams all of a sudden stood up to the big market teams.
Boise State.
Yeah, Boise State, for example. And in a lot of examples, won games. And they're still not playing enough games to be ranked properly and have it meaningful. Like, it's just, they need more of a structured playing, like a season. In a way, they need to structure those seasons around those divisions, or even redo them a little bit, or they need to maybe just get away from the 10, 12, all that kind of things, where they're still all over the country. But
they need to turn it into a proper, just a league,
like an NFL model.
Yeah, exactly. Versus just having these different conferences and all this. And I understand there's a lot of tradition, pageantry, and people don't want to give all that stuff up. And that's what's unique about college, is that whole pageantry thing. But times have changed, and you got to change.
It doesn't mean you can't change traditions.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a sense, though, they sort of don't need to do too much with it, though, because not a lot. Each sort of team plays their 8 sort of conference games at least, and then maybe the structure from there is you sort of rotate on the 4 other games of the conferences you would play. So like the SEC, you play 4 games against like the Big 12 or the ACC or anything like that, maybe.
So rotate in the same way the NFL does with divisions each 4 years.
You could do that. But I mean, at the end of the day, in terms of the actual bracket, the thing that the selectors more so take into account is more so your losses, and then who were your big wins against. That's probably why like Alabama wasn't there. And you've got sort of all of these like smaller teams that hadn't lost much, or maybe lost one game or anything like that. that have been able to get through, because really it is a bit weird how it's structured, because I don't know what your thoughts are, Brad, but I feel like Penn State probably come out of the weekend going, we lost the Big Ten championship, but we've got SMU at home, and then we've got Boise State, so they're almost a lock for the semi-finals, whereas Oregon, your Ducks are sitting there going, oh, we've got to play either the Buckeyes or Tennessee,
Sure.
Tough matchup as it is, and then you probably got to go and host Texas.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty tough run to the title game.
Absolutely, it is, and so that's why they're saying. I mean, I don't have a ton of sympathy because the colleges all agreed to this format prior to them, to coming into effect. But there's already talk about how they need to, in that second round, reseed the teams so that if you are number one, you actually do get a true advantage, because Oregon definitely does not have an advantage. They've got the toughest road to get there. So
I think you can't just make a bracket where you say these two teams, like you do on the first round, and there's no real sense to it when I look at the seeding numbers. But I think you need to do it more of what normal brackets are, where the one seed would play the lowest place winner, etc. So you've at least you're still playing a lower seeded team as the one seed, and the two seeds as well. So it's not really until you get to like the 4 seed, who might be playing the 5th seed, for example, then that's that matchup should be even. But it's just
at the moment
to preference your 1 and your 2s.
They should do that to rejig it so that the number 1 team has that advantage, because at the moment it's more so of that NBA playoff type structure where for example the semi-final, the conference semi-final would be between the winner of 1 and 8 and 4 and 5 instead of 1 plays the lowest ranked team sort of thing. So they probably should rejig that next year, I would say, at least.
Yeah, it's probably going to be 2 years before they do that, but yeah. And the other thing is, it's not a huge deal, but so this first round, they're doing it like the higher seed gets a home game.
Yes.
But then that round. This first round is the only round where they get home games. Then it goes back to all neutral field where they're using the bowl model. So
which I kind of get, but I get for the tradition of the bowls, and you change it, but you're changing the teams, so you're still keeping the bowl, but you're changing the teams that have traditionally been there, etc. Yes, but I know what you're getting at, Brad, because a lot of people have commented on that 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds should have a home final.
Exactly, absolutely, exactly,
because it's worth a lot of money to the college itself.
Yeah,
at least for the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and to the towns that support them and stuff, because it's just it's a phenomenal experience. So, is it a step in the right direction? Absolutely, 100%. I'll take it. Could they have done a lot of things a lot better? You bet they could have. Yeah, but it just goes back to this. Just they're so stuck in their ways, and they're literally about 25 years behind. I kind of liken it to. I didn't grow up here, but I liken it to cricket in terms of just how people view cricket and how they're. I feel like people their sense of cricket is like, no, we can't ever change anything, and this is the way it's always been. And
mate, I'm pretty sure we've been playing T20 cricket now for probably over 15 years, maybe longer now, Nick, and people still whinge. People still whinge about a 20-a-side game, 20 over game. And then people are still whinging about Big Bash when even that it's not even supposed to be. It's supposed to be cricket, but it's not supposed to be traditional cricket. It's supposed to be like a whole different version of it, and people still whinge about it, going, "Oh, I can't watch that trash."
To be fair, though, I mean, we're getting off topic because we're talking about a different sport now.
This is the cricket podcast.
It is cricket season as well. I suppose with the sort of difference between the comparison is we know that the expansion of the college football playoff will actually be better in terms of the viewing. Like, it'll actually, you'll have some great stories, you'll have some underdogs in that. The thing is with the cricket, though, is you look at like what Ian said about the T20. The T20, they had that on the right trajectory, right? And I favour more of the traditional, the test match more than the other forms. But they had the T20 on the right form, on the right trajectory. Then they turned around and they made it such a huge commercial thing and everything like that, playing games in the middle of the week, and that's what ruined it. So they sort of overdid it, and that's why now no one really cares about that sort of Big Bash sort of setup and stuff like that. So it's just you want this to be able to be sustainable for the college football, but you don't want to be able to like sort of overdo it, because if you get teams that are, if they make it the next sort of reshuffle, if they make it like a top, I don't know, 24, when's that sort of cutoff to where it's becoming, okay, now it's definitely more about the money more so than about getting all these teams in and underdogs, because, it is a team it's ranked 24th, are they going to go to Oregon and they're going to beat, or go to Georgia and they're going to beat Georgia? It might happen once in a blue moon, but, you don't want it to be too sort of big. You want it to be so that it is the elite of the elite sort of thing.
Yeah, but I would argue it's been about the money for a long, long time, and that's why they ultimately did make this switch to the playoffs, because the leagues, ESPN rather, said, showed them the money and the modeling and said we can do a ton of money, and from the U.S. perspective, for the average college fan, if your team is in the top 25, that's a big deal. That's a really, really big deal. So not quite as much as what it used to be, but if your team is ranked in the top 25, then you're happy. Unless you're like, the Georgia or Oregon, where you expect to be top 10, that type of thing. So, and how often do those, teams in the late teens and the 20s defeat the top teams? Not very often, but it does happen, and it happens enough to where I think it would still engage people. I think, this is just my personal opinion, I think taking it to 16 teams, that would be the sweet spot. Do the top 16, shuffle it so that you can get, if you're the number one seed, you can get a home game, but who knows? The fact that we're talking about it is a cool thing, and that it's relevant, and that it's not just the same old, dyed in the wool bowl games crap.
Definitely. So Oregon gets 1, Georgia gets 2, Arizona gets 3, Boise get 3, Arizona get 4. As you said, amazing for Boise State. It's like,
oh, it's huge.
It's huge, amazing for them.
It's probably the equivalent of like, I don't know, Port Adelaide being the best city, or ranked in the country type thing in terms of the size. I shouldn't say Port Adelaide because they're too connected to Adelaide, but whatever, Mildura, something like that size of a town.
Yeah. So,
jeez,
those 4 teams get the bye. I can see the first round, the games, which are all awesome games this weekend. They've ranked those the right way. They've matched them up the right way. So you've got the 5th against the 12th. So the highest against the lowest, and you keep moving from there. But I think the suggestion, Brad, that they should then reorder them is a much better one in the quarterfinals, just so that the 1 and the 2 seeds get preference or over anybody else. And if they still lose from that point, that's their own fault. Which means they could, if the 5, 6, 7th, and 8th seeds all won their games this week, their respective games this weekend, Oregon would still be coming up against Ohio State as the lowest, lowest ranked winner, which is a huge matchup.
Oh, and Ohio State, out of all those, Ohio State could arguably be the second best team in the country.
That could be.
So, and Oregon beat them, but that was at home by a point. So, with
a bad play at the end. And that was a bad play. Yeah, that was that last play. I don't know if you remember watching it back. Oh yeah, it was a lot like a playoff game when Dallas had played us. Yes,
I know exactly what you're talking
sneak,
about.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was just glad I was on the other end of it this time.
Yeah, I was just about to say you're on the other side of it. It feels good, doesn't it?
Oh.
Yeah. So for anyone that hasn't really watched a lot of college football, Brad, out of those games this weekend and the way that bracket is structured, what's the easier path? Where's the underdogs that someone could possibly get behind and root
if
for?
you're looking for a dog,
Yeah.
the probably I would say the easiest path is going to be that Texas Clemson or the Penn State SMU because the Penn State SMU they get to go up against Boise State, and Boise State has done great things. They're the 3 ranked seed, but they're not as good. They're not. They're the best. The best team they played was Oregon at the beginning of the season. It was like a 4-point game, but that was before Oregon got rolling. That was only right at the beginning of the season. So that's probably their biggest. The fact that they were close to beating Oregon in that game. So if I'm Penn State or SMU, I'm feeling good about the fact that I could very easily get to the third round, the semifinals of that. So, and between that game, Penn State and SMU, I think that's a closer game than a traditional 6-11. SMU is 11, but they could definitely win that game.
Yep. So, for anyone that wants to maybe put a few dollars on some teams this weekend, Brad, the games this weekend, is there anything that stands out to you in that lot?
This from this
From
weekend?
this weekend? Yeah, from this weekend.
Yeah, I'm
Is it
probably
on this weekend?
This weekend or next weekend? Sorry, from
Next
this
weekend.
first round. From the first round.
Yeah, first round.
First round. I know what you mean. I would probably take SMU if I'm looking for a dog. I'm taking SMU at 11. I don't know what the spread is on that game, but
I can find out for you, Brad, for sure.
but if I'm just looking for a good value on a dog, it would be SMU. And if you could somehow pick SMU to get to that semifinal, I don't know if you can pick futures to get to the semifinal.
I already have. So I'm already all over it. So a good multi I put together to double your money. Let you know. So it was for Texas and Penn State to make the semifinal, both of them.
Ooh.
Yeah, very reasonable. Very reasonable. Especially
And that was a double your money.
Really?
Yeah, I think that was about $2 something.
Yeah, I would take that. Two's not. Yeah, I mean, it's still two's decent value. It's not the best value, but I think those two have the easiest road for favorites. I still think SMU could upset Penn State.
So Penn State are 8.5 point favorites.
So I was going to say, which one did you want to see, Brad?
Which one do I want to see?
No, which odds, like which
the Penn State SMU, but Nick just said it's
so it's 8.5.
8.5. Okay.
Texas has got 11.5 over Clemson.
Yeah.
Ohio State has 7.5 over Tennessee, and Notre Dame have 7.5 over Indiana.
Okay. Yeah, I would have thought I would probably take Ohio State and lay the points. I would give them the points. I think Ohio State's going to win that. Texas at 11 against Clemson. I don't know. I don't know if I would take that. I'd probably take Clemson and the points. Notre Dame, Indiana. I'd probably take Indiana, getting 7 points, and then the Penn State SMU. I'd probably take SMU just with the points. So I like a lot of dogs in those, except for Ohio State.
I love these over-under. The total lines are all over 50, except for the Ohio State-Tennessee game.
Jeez. That's the beauty of college, man, is just that, it could really, you get some high-scoring, exciting back-and-forth games.
Yeah. Look at the money. Cool. The money lines are amazing too. Anyway, so that's college football playoffs. Excited to see what goes on from here. We might check in a little bit after round one, see where everyone ends up at, see which one of those couple of teams Brad's Ducks need to go up against. I think we're all in love with the actual Oregon Duck right now, the mascot. So, we'll probably be checking back in to see what he's doing in some crazy, wacky world. So something else in college football playoffs that we needed to talk about, or just college football in general, that everyone will have known about by now because it is huge news in the NFL or just in the gridiron world right now. Bill Belichick has signed for 5 years to be the University of North Carolina head coach. And I don't know whether you saw it today, Brad, or not. He's picked his GM, Mike Lombardi.
No, I didn't know it was Lombardi.
He's bringing Lombardi on to be the GM of that organisation as well.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay,
It's a pretty cool story, and I don't you wouldn't have probably heard it, Brad. I know yet, and it's just something interesting that we can talk about. Could tell you now. Bill Belichick's on Pat McAfee show every week, a couple of times a week sometimes. Yesterday or the day before, they had a chat to him about this UNC job when it was rumoured that he'd been going there. Apparently, he went for a 5-hour meeting on Sunday, Football Sunday, also on Monday our time. 5 hours, it's just insane. But he laid out on the McAfee show what his vision for a college football program would be if he were to take on any head coaching job. And he essentially said that he wanted to make it a total NFL pathway, run it like it was an NFL franchise, so that the players got more in tune with how an NFL franchise runs before they land in the big time, so that they are ready to go and hit the ground running sooner when they hit the NFL and just be better players, like better player output. Basically, just change the way that college football is essentially structured in the way that they run a team, a college itself.
And I that's great, and I admire him for that, and if I respect his coaching ability. But what Bill, I feel like what he doesn't realize, and this is probably, I'm not an ageist, but it sounds like an age thing, is he's dealing with 18-year-old kids, sometimes 17-year-old kids. And they don't have the maturity or the mindset to operate like an NFL team. This, for a lot of these guys, it's going to be their first time away from home. So you put them in an environment, they have a hard enough time adjusting to college life as it is. And now, because they're introducing a lot of money, and they're going to go to like a salary cap type system. I just don't know if he gets the right people around him. So if Lombardi and what have you can put the right people around in place, and they have the right structures, it's possible. But if this is just Belichick being Belichick, I don't, and he's got total control. I don't like it personally. In addition, in terms, I don't like the odds for success. Now, with all that said, I do think that him going to college is way more interesting than him going to an NFL team. I'm really intrigued about what it's going to look like, and part of that's just because I really do like the college system and that whole thing. But it's going to be a fascinating experiment, one way or the other.
I love it. No, I think it's going to be a great move. I think most people had thought that he was trying to get an NFL job because of he wants to track down Don Shula, which is true and all, but right behind him, who's still coaching and has still got a long way to go and has the best quarterback in the game, is Andy Reid. So he could go for that record, but it's like, how long is he actually going to have that record for? Because Andy Reid's pretty much closing, and how long are the Chiefs going to be good for? They win another. Andy Reid's 58 games away from Don Shula, so really, that's another 7 or 8 seasons playing the way that the Chiefs are, and that includes obviously playoff games as well. But I think where this makes it a good fit for Bill Belichick is that, because of the NIL deals and everything like that, it can be more so of an NFL setup, because he doesn't have to go now to all these, high school, 5-star recruits out of high school and has to sit down and recruit, like Nick Saban had to, or anything like that. he can deploy guys and do that, but the main thing is going to be, just poaching guys that got recruited by these top schools and just say, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, 5-star recruits that are, D linemen, cornerbacks, linebackers, you say, look, you want to learn from the best, we can pay you as well. So even though it's a basketball school, as you would know, Brad, they will get some funding with this because they know that particularly with this season, there hasn't been any real standout, fantastic, over-the-top, overwhelmingly separating college team. Like Oregon's the number 1 seed. They're a really good seed, but they're a really good team, obviously, but they're not like leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else like, Bama used to be, or the LSU team with like Burrow, Chase, and Justin Jefferson. So I think it's going to be a really good setup. They could be playing in the playoffs too in a couple of years if they get this all right. So he's definitely going to make that defense really good. So if he has the right people around him, I think it's definitely going to work.
Yeah, I don't think Belichick would have gone there either without having the knowledge of or knowing that they're going to put some money up to put towards the program to really make it work.
And I love the fact that it's not your traditional Alabama powerhouse type school, that it is a school that's never won a championship, that, outside of Drake May, what have they had really in the last 20 years? So, I think it's an exciting model, and I hope he succeeds. I just worry that the 78-year-old Bill Belichick doesn't realize what it's going to be like to deal, because he had a hard time, dealing with pros, let alone an 18-year-old kid who's addicted to TikTok and hand lotion. I mean, it's just,
But if they've got less money, they might listen to him more. So who knows?
Mitch Trubisky, mate.
True.
Mitch Trubisky came out of there. Such
there
great
you go.
names. Such great names as Javonte Williams, Sam Howell, Mitch Trubisky, Julius Peppers.
Michael Jordan.
I'm going through just NFL ones.
So
James Worthy.
I'm just saying, so
Michael Carter.
Mediocre quarterbacks, one good defensive end.
I mean, if we go to basketball, yes, Michael Jordan, James Worthy, Bob McAdoo, Vince Carter, Billy Cunningham, like
that's a good list.
I'm not even finished. Like, it's just so big.
Well, did Vince Carter even play, or was he? I think he was just enrolled. But
Jerry
I don't know if he played,
Stackhouse.
actually. Jerry Stackhouse. Oh gosh. Yeah.
We're talking about everything tonight. We got cricket, we got college. Haven't even touched on the NFL, college basketball.
We're just a sports podcast now, mate. That's all it is.
This.
Love it, absolutely.
Next thing you know, we're going to talk about the
Mate, we did that before. We've done it before. Why not? We are. That's what we are now. We're just a sports podcast.
That's right.
I
love it.
Righto. Let's move on. We got some previews to go. Before we jump into previews, I've got a pretty interesting stat that came out of there's a bit of searches on. So obviously, with if you listen to the reaction show that comes out on a Wednesday morning with myself and Isaac, we do the eliminated. So we
eliminated.
We go through and we talk about some positives from teams that were eliminated in that week. A bit of research into all that research. A little stat came out of that on these teams so far. 7 teams eliminated so far in the National Football League. 6 out of the 7 teams that are eliminated as of today are AFC teams. Of those 6 AFC teams, they have a combined 1-25 record against NFC teams.
Jeez.
Trying to get one there.
That's like
You're just trying to figure out who the outlier is, aren't you, mate?
I'm trying to think who the one is. Hang on.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Do you want me to just... It was way back.
Yeah.
The
put
New
us out of
England
our mind.
Patriots
Who is
beat the Chicago Bears.
Shut
So
the Bears.
congratulations, Eberflus. But how's that for a record? 1-25 against NFC teams for 6 teams.
That's like the opposite of Lamar
That's
Jackson.
unreal.
Yeah, it is. It's the opposites. Isn't it weird? I feel like correct me if I'm wrong, but last year, Brad, we were talking about how strong the AFC was and the parity in the AFC and how they just gotten everything right. I'm not saying there's not parity in the AFC right now either. The 6 teams eliminated. They're clearly on
Right.
par with each other. But it just seems like we've flipped to the other side where the NFC is not so strong, but there's an insane sense of parity where all the teams are at
Deeper.
a similar level. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're strong, not like the AFC was.
Yeah.
AFC last year where you had the Ravens at the top of their game and the Chiefs at the top of their game and the Bills at the top of their game. Like it was so stacked at the top end and they were all on par.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Does it seem like that? Like it's gone the other way a little bit?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, different than what people expected going into the year. Of course, the Lions are they're in their almost a league of their own right now. So just everything that they've done is just
I think it's
phenomenal.
Personally, think it's a great thing for the league for the league for both conferences to be that way though, to be so stacked because we're finally, I think, getting closer to where. I can't say we won't do away with 3-win teams because someone's got to lose eventually. But a 3-win team won't necessarily be viewed as bad. It's just that they won't be as good because they can't get over that final hurdle. They might not win that close game, but we might end up with a whole bunch more like one-score games. So they're all really good. The parity-wise, every game on its own is really good. Yeah, and it's just two teams battling it out every week rather than.
A few outliers.
We do still have like outliers now, like the Panthers early season. They were just you could do anything you wanted to the Panthers early season, you know, and that's just the way that was. You knew that's what it's going to be. The Bears are flip flopping to that way now.
The Giants, the last 3 seasons, you know,
the Giants in forever since Eli Manning left. You know, like it's.
Yeah. Good. I know we're not Panther talk, but I'm really been impressed with the way how hard they've played the last couple weeks. It's
I said it on the reaction show, Brad. I don't know whether you heard it or you might have missed
Not
that
yet.
part. This confirms the shit out of my theory last week. Remember we were talking about the fact that I said that it seems to me like the Panthers are showing that they can win a game if they really wanted to, but they are super competitive against teams. And then right in that fourth quarter, it's just like, we'll just take foot off gas now.
yeah.
Like, and I don't think it's I don't want to say it's a conscious thing like, we're going to take our foot off the gas because we want to lose. I think it's more like the conditioning of the team itself. Like their conditioning is probably poor, so they can't last a full 60-minute game of playtime. Yeah, and they get to that fourth quarter and they're gassed because obviously the tempo gets turned up by every team across the league in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
We see that every single week. And I think that they just, when the tempo gets turned up, they don't have the horses to be able to compete. But early in the game, when the tempo is at a more manageable pace for them, they just dominate someone. They dominated the Chiefs. They were destroying the Chiefs. And it's insane. And if it wasn't for a Xavier Worthy drop catch, they would have beat the Chiefs.
Yeah. And how tight would you have been, or how nervous would you have been if you would have been that guy that laid the $3.5 million bet on the Chiefs to win that game? Or 3.2.
That's insane.
I don't know if you heard about that or not.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing that blew me away about that bet was that he was only going to win like $400,000. I mean, which only. But still, you're risking, $3.1, $3.2 million to make $400,000. It's just, well, I
mean, that's what we talk about, and that's what betting agencies in Australia have to talk about a lot now. Is that just because you're putting $100 onto a $1.01 favourite, you've still got to consider the fact that favourite could still lose because you're still talking about a sport. You're talking about dogs running, horses running, whatever it is.
It's not a guarantee.
Like two chickens crossing the road. You're still betting on something, and it's not a guarantee, and you could still lose that $100. And you need to consider the fact that you could lose that upfront $3.5 million.
Yeah.
But if I'm guessing if you got $3.5 million to put on a game, spare, just laying around, you can lose $3.5 million.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you want to throw $3.5 million away, it's like there's plenty of us over here that could take a chunk of that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be their bookie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that 1% cut too, Nick.
Yeah. inject that into the local leagues over here, and that'd make quite a big difference.
It's injected in my veins, Brad. That's where it needs to be injected to. All right, let's move on with some Week 15 preview games. Since I've killed Brad, we might need to move on before he does die.
Please.
All right, we picked out 4 awesome games from this week's slate in the NFL. As always, we don't mess around here. We don't try and beat around the bush too much. We try and make it a bit fun. And I think nearly every week we've been able to come up with 4 games that are actually interesting to talk about. And this week in Week 15 is absolutely... there's absolutely no different to them. There's a lot of games in Week 15 which on paper do look a bit poo. There's a lot of games that are being played by teams that are at the bottom end of their divisions or the bottom end of conferences, so they're nothing games. But that just means more eyeballs are on games like the ones we're just about to talk about. First off, we get into the later slate, the midday slates, 8:25 a.m. over here. Bills at Lions. The Buffalo Bills are 10-3, set to face off against the 12-1 Detroit Lions in a highly anticipated match on Monday. This match is obviously in Detroit. The Lions on a bit of a home game stretch at the moment. It's very significant for both teams as they're contenders in respective conferences for playoffs, and could potentially meet again later in the postseason if we are lucky enough for them to get there. 2 teams, Brad, that have been touted as Super Bowl contenders and possible matchup in the Super Bowl.
This is arguably the most exciting game of the week and potentially of the season. So I think this is as good of a front runner for the Super Bowl as we can get. I am excited, and you guys know that I am the fun police, the self-designated fun police. This is in fact the highest total for an NFL game in over 2 years. So
Really?
yeah, it's at least
Smash the under.
It's 55. So
In 2 years?
Yeah, in 2 years. This is the highest total for a game in 2 years. So I actually would put aside my fun police hat, and I think I would consider taking the over on this.
I'm
even
going
at
over.
55.
Really?
Yeah.
The Bills played in an 80-point game last week. I'm going
but
over.
I don't know. I feel like they have to be locking down much more this week.
I just feel like
they had their worst defensive game the whole season. I feel like they have to be coming out with a bit of they have to make a statement defensively.
Well, but they had their worst defensive game in large part because of injuries, and they really haven't gotten that much better on the injury front. So
Well, the Lions are the same.
yeah,
The Lions are down to second stringers all over the defense.
Yeah. So and the thing is, Buffalo runs a lot of this soft zone, so they don't want to give up these big plays. So teams can move the ball on them, and especially running teams, and that's what Detroit is going to do, I think. And their propensity to go for it on 4th down so much, I think it's just going to lead to a lot of scores. So I think with both defenses being banged up, but I see your point, Nick, and and Buffalo after the loss might be out for blood and that type of thing. But I feel like Josh Allen's just going to be superhero, and we're just going to be in for a dynamic game. So what's the spread? I know the total is 55. The spread is what?
2.5.
2.5. So
2.5
Buffalo's
for the
only
Lions.
getting 2.5. Okay.
It's an interesting line.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I don't know.
I almost wanted to go with Detroit, but it's that mentality that I think the Bills would have coming out this week and going, right, we have to lock down this week. They had because they beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Fair enough. They got smashed against the Ravens, particularly defensively on the ground. So they have a lot of issues to fix up. Now, I don't think they'd be able to stop the Lions completely, but I think that they have to be holding them to. I think it's got that sort of vibe for me, this game, where it could be like both teams sort of make some mistakes, because I think there's a lot of forced mistakes in this game. So it's probably, I don't know, to me it's probably like a 24-21 sort of game, really.
Okay. I don't personally. I don't see it that way. I think it's going to come down to some, hero ball on either side, and they're going to be slinging it around. So yeah, 2.5. That is a tough one. So I don't. Well, I wouldn't bet it at 2.5. To be honest with you, I'd do an alternate line. I would increase that line for Buffalo out to like 6 or 7, and then I'd take Buffalo.
That should be safe. 7 should be safe. 7 should be safe. I'd be comfortable if it got to 4.5 for the Bills. I don't think it's going to be. I can't really see a blowout either way.
No, I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. Yep, I agree.
I don't think it is going to be a blowout. I mean, both teams are really good offensively, so I think the focal point this week for both teams, particularly with the Lions coming off sort of a mini bye, will be, let's make sure that defensively we're getting better. They've had some slip ups with, they allowed a lot of points to Chicago, and then they brought back Green Bay into that game last week. A gutsy call at the end. And another thing is with both these teams, with the head coaches, not very, there's some questions about coaching on both sides of the ball. Like Dan Campbell is a little bit too aggressive. There will come a time where that maybe will bite him. And Sean McDermott, his time management and his clock management is really very questionable at best. So could go either way. I think if I had to pick, I would side with the Lions getting the field goal, though.
If I had to pick at that line, I would take the Lions with the field goal. I wouldn't but personally, I wouldn't bet it at that. I would tease it out. Do the alternate line.
Will be a great game, though.
Yeah, it will be.
It will be. It could be the game of the week, really.
I think it's going to be the game of the season.
That's why it was an easy lock for one of these game previews this week, easily. I think I circled it weeks ago, and I just had to find the other three. So,
and the Lions do have to win. They need this win more than the Buffalo, because they've got Minnesota breathing down their necks.
Yep, sure do. All right, let's move on to the second game for this week, and it is Steelers at Eagles. Pittsburgh Steelers are 10-3, first in the AFC North. Philadelphia Eagles sitting on 11-2, first in the NFC East this season. This game in Philly is sure to be a great one against two teams that are very strong in certain types of football and certain spots on their rosters. Be great to see how Russ fares against this Eagles defense, who haven't been as great as they should be, but Saquon Barkley against the Steelers defense, yes please, feed it to me. Let's go. What are we thinking, Nick?
I almost like Pittsburgh in this spot. I feel like there's just been a little bit too much. When teams have some distractions, and I learned this definitely this year from the Niners. When teams have these distractions, be look out for those. So, this week they came out, Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, that thing there. God knows what's happened. I think AJ Brown's just a bit of a diva receiver. He prefers getting his 10 receptions in a loss rather than a four receptions in a win. I mean, we saw last week they had that drive against Carolina. They went 3 and out, and he's over there smashing his helmet and everything. I think he had 4 targets or something. So I like Pittsburgh in this spot, particularly with that 5.5 points as well. Just some stats though. Now, a lot of this hinges from the Eagles' downfall last year, but since Sirianni has been the coach of the Eagles, their record in December and January is 7-7,
Interesting.
and they have a turnover differential of -12. So they give the ball away a lot, and they're pretty even late in the year. Now, a lot of that would have contributed to last year and how they fell apart and everything. So it's really interesting to see this week now, because they've had such success giving the ball to Saquon, and they're probably going to try and prop him up more so they can, keep being an MVP contender, keep him going, trying to get to that record. But now with this thing with AJ Brown, do you really trust Nick Sirianni to be able to settle that down and make sure everyone's happy? No, he's got a player that he's just brought in. They're trying to get him a record that has been set for 30 or 40 years or something, and now we've got a $35 million receiver out here going, I want more targets. So something's got to give, because this year AJ Brown is 43rd in targets. So I think there's a little bit too much noise, and I think Pittsburgh come in a little bit cleaner. Their defense can really have a focal point of trying to stop Saquon, and then worry about AJ Brown and all that. Make Jalen Hurts throw the ball, because I think at the moment Pittsburgh are in real good stead, real good form, and they play really well. Bill Belichick said this last week. They play really well against rushing quarterbacks. They have a great game plan against it, and you can see it, which is what they've got with Jalen Hurts this week.
You know what this reminds me of, this Eagles team and where they're at right now? It reminds me of Buffalo and Stephon Diggs. And I don't know what it is about receivers just being the ultimate divas, but here you've got an Eagles team that's just clicking and they're doing great things, and then you've got this twat over there, AJ Brown, who, because he's not getting his share of what he feels like his share of touches, he's just throwing a little hissy fit, and I mean,
It's just chirping off.
oh, it's just everything that I hate about, just
It's
these.
always receivers. It's always
Yes,
receivers.
it
You don't hear
is.
running backs bitching.
No, linemen don't, receivers don't, quarterbacks don't. It's always this diva receivers.
That's
So
why we want to run the ball.
yeah, damn straight, absolutely.
I mean, you sign an all-time running back, and it's not just trying to get him the record, Nick. He's just amazing with the ball in his hands.
Oh
So
yeah,
you just feed him the ball,
but it
and
works.
they're winning games. And then
Yeah.
AJ Brown's, because he's playing a bit role, doesn't like that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Surprised he hasn't got his dad to start filming stuff yet.
And it's like that, but they're winning games, and he's done his body of it. It's not like he's in a contract year or something like that. Like he's
Right.
got his 35 mil for each year for the next 4 years. Like,
Yeah.
why would you not be prioritizing trying to get back to where you were 2 years ago and trying to win a ring?
Yeah, that's right. If they keep going the way they are, with Saquon just destroying teams left, right, and centre, they could very much get back to the Super Bowl, and you've got a really good possibility, depending on who you're matching up against, of winning that ring finally. So if you can win the ring and not have to catch 3,000 yards in a season, then, what are you doing?
Oh,
Doesn't matter.
good Lord, though, I really don't want the Eagles to win a title. I really, really don't want that.
No, I really don't want to see their fans eat horse shit off the street again either.
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh,
I don't know.
well, I was just say if you
Okay,
don't,
Brad.
if you don't
Yeah.
mind breaking down the game a little bit, what I think it's going to be interesting is
I was going back to the game, so it's okay. Yeah.
okay, yeah, both these teams have the highest run frequencies in the league, and since the bye week, Philadelphia is running the ball 10%, over 10% more than any other team. So and it's working. So it's keep sticking with it, and I think what's going to come down in this game is who can turnovers. If whoever can win the turnover battle, I think is going to win this game. What's going to be interesting though is Pickens. If Pickens doesn't play, then it's Steelers are going to have a really hard time. And you saw it in this last game when they didn't
Yeah.
have Pickens.
Oh yeah.
Because normally what they do with Pickens is they throw it up deep, and he has these 50-50 balls, and he comes down with it. He's phenomenal at it. And this last game, they were just running these basic, simple out patterns, and it was back to old Russ, where he barely throws the ball downfield. Like they had the lowest, I think, average air yards of any team last week. So if it's that type of Steelers game, then I worry. I feel like, though, Pittsburgh's offense, Arthur Smith has restored my faith in him, the way he's done this offense. So, and in fact, I just listened to a podcast today that talked about how he's kind of a dark horse for a head coaching position again, which that would surprise me a little bit. But I think what he's done with this offense and rejuvenating Russ is really, really impressive. I think it's going to be a defensive game, and this is one of my bets that I'll get to later. But I think if you're a fan of defensive football, you want to watch this game. It's going to be a little bit of a smash mouth game, and Tomlin's going to have these guys ready and prepared. So it should be a violent game.
So a little bit of history just before we sign off from this game. The Eagles lead the all-time series 49-29-3. So 49-29-3.
It's big.
Pittsburgh haven't won a road game in Philadelphia since 1965.
What?
10 straight games they have lost to Philadelphia in Philadelphia.
Wow.
So they are looking to win their first road game against the Eagles at home since 1965.
That's impressive.
Wow.
So we all know history does count sometimes, weirdly, in the NFL.
Yeah.
All right, game number 3 for the week, and it is Tampa Bay Buccaneers at LA Chargers. The Bucs are set to face off against the Chargers at home in LA. And it's set to be a pretty good matchup for the Chargers, especially with them playing some pretty good defensive and smash mouth football, and then the Bucs, just rolling on with Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans back to health, Bucky Irving just coming up and up in that offense right now, running the ball great. The Chargers might still be out without Ladd McConkey, but we're going to probably see that more on game time. So it's going to be a very interesting game, Brad, between these two teams. It'll be interesting to see whether Justin Herbert apparently is carrying an injury, Brad, a foot injury as reported today. So they'll probably still play him, but it'll be interesting to see if Harbaugh goes with just full-on smash-mouth run game just to sort of keep his QB a little healthier.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, you couldn't get two more diametrically opposed offenses than Tampa Bay's, gunslinger type Baker Mayfield. Let's just, chuck it up and pray. And he leads the league in interceptions. What has he got, like 20 interceptions? And whereas Herbert is, very conservative, especially with that injury. I think you're going to see the Chargers going back to this run game, especially if Herbert's mobility is limited, because you saw in the first half or the first couple games of the season what it was like for San Diego when Herbert was hurt, and of course they don't have Dobbins anymore, so it's I don't want to get into the fantasy side of things, but I would be happy if I was if I owned the San Diego running back. I forget his name right now, but I'd be happy if I had that guy for my fantasy playoffs. I think it's going to come down to, can Baker limit his turnovers? Is he going to continue throwing up 3 turnovers, 2 turnovers? If he does, then I think it'll be a convincing Chargers win. If if he doesn't, if he plays good ball, I still think because the coaching is gonna, the Chargers are a better coach team, and I think that the Chargers are gonna come away with that in a close one. I just think when it comes down to close games like that, I like the discipline of the Chargers. I like the ability of Herbert to be surgical in the way he can move the team down the field, and I think the Chargers have a better defense overall. So I would be taking the Chargers in this one.
It would be interesting if Herbert actually does play, because they will need to be even without, because Will Disley's not playing either. I mean, doesn't seem like a big name, but they already don't have a lot of weapons as is the Chargers. If McConkey's back in, then you've got Herbert, because the Bucks are without Winfield and Whitehead as well in their secondary. So they're going to be able to pass on them. But the thing I like about the Bucks in this spot is the last few years they have not been a very good rushing team at all. Like, they've been one of the worst teams, even from when Brady's last year there, and then last year as well. Their rush offense has been horrible. They're actually one of 4 teams this year to be top 10 in scoring, passing, and rushing offense. So they're a much better rushing team this year. They floated around with a few guys. The thing I do worry about the Chargers, though, as well, is even as a run-first team, we saw it last week, they can't run the ball without Dobbins, and that's sort of their identity. So that's why you're seeing from the Bengals game and before that, where they were really trying to pass it. I think they were trying to do that so they can have a few more avenues. Now with Herbert on that ankle, it's quite concerning for them. So they're in quite a tough spot. I do agree that coaching is better. Their defense is also better. I really want to go. If it was anything more than 3, if it was like 4 points or anything like that, I would take the Bucks. But I probably have to lean with the Chargers going by a field goal, and I reckon it's probably going to be one of those lockdown sort of type defensive games that the Chargers are usually in.
Now, I don't know how good you can run through Vita Vea, though. The guy is still a fridge.
Oh,
So, and the Bucks are ranked 11th in defense against the rush this season, which is pretty good for the Bucks. That is definitely on the up, considering they were also used to be pretty bad against the run as well as with the run. So, and as I said, Bucky Irving's been playing a lot better. He's been sort of taking a lot of snaps off Rashad White as well, a lot of rushes, and just playing better and better. So they seem to have found a guy in him too. So, going to be a great game. Just a small add-on at the end. I've said before, I use AI to pull some stats out of the ether, so I don't have to go hunting for a lot of them. A lot of the basic stuffs like yards scored and total receptions and who's doing what, where, on what team, all that sort of stuff. And occasionally AI does this thing where it's done again, and it's given me a game review for the Buccaneers and Chargers. We won't go through the whole thing again like we have the last couple of times. But I just want to put it out there that AI says that the Chargers emerged victorious with a final score of Chargers 23, Buccaneers 18. So let's see how that pick the score plays out this week.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
And apparently, according to AI, Lad McConkey will be back, and he makes significant contributions in terms of receiving yards, and was a key target for Herbert throughout the game.
Okay.
So, interesting. Stats are there. See if AI can get this one right.
Yeah, I'd probably lean more 20 to 18, but yeah.
See how it goes. We get this one right, though. We're 0-2 so far, aren't we, Nick? I'm pretty sure we're 0-2 on the AI prediction so far.
No, well, in terms of the actual who they predict to win, no, I think because one of them was Minnesota, Arizona, wasn't it?
Oh, right. Yes, it was.
Yes, I think so. Technically 1-1. Yeah,
1-1. So we're 1-1 on wins, 0-2 on predicting the score. Let's get one of those scores.
Man.
So we some good money. We'll light up the heavens if we pick the score. That's for sure. All right. The fourth and final game for Week 15 that we are going to preview on G'day Gridiron is the Green Bay Packers travelling up to Seattle to face the Seahawks. The Packers are going to face off against Seattle Seahawks on Monday at Lumen Field in Seattle. Big matchup for both teams as they are both competing for playoff positions. Packers are currently sitting at 9-4, third place in the NFC North. Amazingly, at a 9-4 record would have them first place in a bunch of other divisions this season at the moment. The Seahawks are 8-5 in their division. Yeah, good old NFC West. Seahawks are allowing an average of 5 yards a carry between tackles this season on defense, and the Packers have a star running back in Josh Jacobs, who has recorded an NFL high of 731 rushing yards between those tackles. Brad, that one set of stats doesn't bode well for the Seahawks.
Well, I would push back a little bit in the sense that since the bye, Seattle's defense has been absolutely outstanding. So since the bye, which has been 4 weeks, so they've had 4 games, they've only given up a total of 21 points in the second half. So their defense in the second half has just been playing lights out. I feel like this is kind of strength against strength. And what you'll see Seattle focus on, in my opinion, is not so much shutting down Jordan Love as shutting down the Packers on those early downs. So look for them to stack the box in those early downs to try and limit Josh Jacobs. Because if they can put Green Bay into these second and long, third and long situations, it's going to play into McDonald, and then that Mike McDonald, the Seahawks coach, it's going to play into their hand. So I think it's going to be a real chess match between these two, and both coaches, outstanding coaches. LaFleur and McDonald is proving himself to be a really good coach. I think Seattle offensive line has really shored up comparatively. So they're still middle of the road, maybe it's slightly better than that, but they're a lot better than what they were. So, and personally, I haven't talked about him much lately, but I am a Geno Smith fan. I know Nick loves him too. So it's going to be. I'm glad this is a Sunday night game. This is my first. I'm going on summer break. Tomorrow's my last day working for the summer. So I am stoked to be able to watch these games.
So much football, Brad.
Oh, mate. This is the best thing about teaching in Australia is this time of year. You get this time off, and you can just watch football. So yeah, it's a good time.
I do agree though that Seattle do have to get those stops on earlier downs, but the Packers more recently have been able to run the ball quite well. They've not sort of limited, but they're sort of restricted Jordan Love in what he does. I think that's more so they don't want him to be that sort of gunslinger that takes a lot of chances, which I'm quite sure why they're doing that. It's a bit like what the Bears did with Caleb Williams a little bit during the season. I'm not sure why they're doing that. They've got the weapons to be able to play with that sort of freestyle and that gunslinging type, the Packers. So I'm not sure why they're sort of doing that. The Seahawks though, the one thing that would be concerning is that they do have to run the ball in this Packers team because Geno Smith at the moment, I know you do like him, Brad, but he's got the third most picks this year. And, statistically, I mean, the stats probably don't paint a great picture. He's probably played better than the stats. But I I still think for this team, they do turn the ball over quite a bit. The Packers do force a lot of turnovers, so they get the ball back off of you. So with that mini sort of bye that they had, because they played on the Friday last week, the Packers, I think this is a pretty solid spot for them. I think this could be a game where they'll bring Jordan Love and they'll try and work him a bit more with having the game sort of go through him, because they will need to find other avenues with winning apart from just giving it to Josh Jacobs. Not that Josh Jacobs, won't be successful, but for them going forward. But I think that the best way for them to be able to really kick on going into this postseason is they need Jordan Love firing like he was last season, going into the second half of the year. So I think that's going to be a big thing. But I do like 2.5. I do like the Packers in this spot, getting a few extra games. Good offensive coaches with an extra bit of time to prepare usually bode quite well. So I don't mind laying the 2.5 with Green Bay here.
So, and to your point, kind of in favor of Green Bay, I don't know if Walker is going to play Seattle running back. So
Yeah, so he's still day to day with that calf injury.
is he? Okay, yeah.
So I mean, they have to hope that Charbonnet has another great game if Walker's out, and he has been playing every time Walker's been out. Charbonnet has really stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, I like him. I thought they got a good deal. Drafting.
I think they need to use him more often.
Yeah. I think
Rather than just running Walker all the time, I think they need to spice it up with more plays with both of them.
I would agree.
So, but been great. All right, well, that's game previews for Week 15. 4 amazing games for you to watch and see what our analysis is like and whether our previews hold fast. They usually do, though. We've been pretty rock solid, so... Let's get into, once we've finished previews now, and we've looked at some games, we're going to get into a few bets for some games.
We're having a punt, having a slap, just having some fun, and then making some scratch. It's the Gday Gridiron's Bloody Best Bets.
Bloody Best Bets for Week 15. Let's recap a bit of Week 14. Boys, I do have to give you a bit of an apology to start with. Once again, failed to put on the bets that I mentioned here on Best Bets last week. Really screwed the pooch. Because Mike Evans, 120 plus and a TD, that wouldn't have come off. No worries. But I had Vikings at -5.5. Well, hit that out of the park, didn't they? So that would have been a great bet. And then I also had Chase Brown for 50 plus receiving and combined yards. The guy went for 54 on the ground and 64 in the air. So would have smashed that out of the park as well. So, boys, dropped the ball. I dropped the ball. I'm going to try not to drop the ball this week. How did you go, Nick?
Well, 1 and 2. But I'll tell you what, when we came on this show, I was sure of it. I said Miami's going to win this game, -6.5. And even when the show had come out on the Saturday, it was still -6.5. Sunday night, it moved to -5.5. And what happened? The game went to overtime. They scored a touchdown. They won by 6 points. So half a point.
Hello, game
Half
script.
a point there. The Chargers got up for me +4.5. And Jordan Love's passing yards was about, I think, 30-something yards short. But he had a sort of bad first. I think I only had 3 completions in the first half. So, yeah, not good. 1 and 2. I'm down to 64% on the year now. It's not good. I've been dropping ever so slightly the last month. So, got to get back up to 3 correct picks this week. So, first one I've got. In each of his last 5 games against the Rams. That's right, Isaac, coming at you again. Deebo Samuel loves playing the Rams. In his last 5 games, each of them has scored at least a touchdown, rushing or receiving. Will be the case as it'll be a bounce back game for him. There's been a lot of noise, a lot of speculation, trade rumors that a lot of our fans are sort of drawing up to get him out. because we're sort of seeing the tread wearing on the tyres now. But could be a bounce back game for him this week, and he does love playing the Rams. So that is the first one I've got. The next one. Now, a precursor, I do think that this could be a game where this could be a head-to-head. And I don't know why, but every year the good teams always drop 1 or 2 games that they probably shouldn't have.
Mm.
I think this week it could be that the Browns might be that team that gives Kansas City their second loss. I'm taking the points plus 4.5. I mean, the Chiefs were playing a close game anyway.
Let's
so
go,
4.5 at home.
Because you're going to be you're going to be foreshadowing one of my bets coming up in a minute too.
Up and down is Jameis Winston. So if he gets on a bit of a heater, they sort of work that. The Chiefs secondary. Cleveland, what they do well, they get to the passer. Now, most of that is Myles Garrett, but they rank very highly in the league in blitz percentage. The Chiefs have not been able to block for Mahomes very well this season. Now, I think DJ Humphries, I heard a rumor he may not be playing this week or something like that at left tackle. So they've still got issues at that position. They've still got the issues with being able to block for him. There is a chance that it could be head-to-head, but take the points, 4.5. And then finally, this is the one I'm most confident out of.
So
Atlanta minus.
Confident?
Oh.
No, you're definitely more confident
maybe
in the other one, mate. I'd be more confident in the last one.
Push bite. Maybe push bite. This one, Atlanta. Now, it started at minus 5.5. It's now at 3.5, minus 3.5 against the Vegas Raiders. The Raiders rank pretty much bottom 4 in every sort of major defensive statistic. They do not turn the ball over. They're the worst team in the league with takeaways. So with Cousins struggling with being able to pass the last few weeks, and he's come up against some good defenses. Now he gets to play against the Raiders. Not very good defensively. So this week they'll be able to move the ball around. I suspect this should be very much a bounce-back game. The Raiders have pretty much packed it in. I think that the Raiders ownership today have come out and they've said that it's not even a certainty that Antonio Pierce is going to be coaching next year. Like they're not even trying to at least say that he's going to be there, or try and give him a vote of confidence. They're just complete schmozzle at the moment. So Atlanta minus 3.5. So hopefully back to a 3-3 week. Need to get back up to over 2/3 for the year. So those are my 3 picks.
I'm going to for Ian's dogs this week. I'm going to go Bo Nix coming off the bye against the Colts. 250 plus yards and 2 TDs against the Colts. Young lad's been playing quite well. He's had a whole extra week to prepare for the Colts, and I think that's going to bode very well. He's been getting over that 250 mark pretty regularly lately. Definitely over 200. I think it'll be over 250. I love it. I'm going to go a bit of a same game multi. Going to double down on the next one. Chuba Hubbard, 90-plus rush yards, and Adam Thielen, 90-plus receiving yards against the Cowboys. Woo! Who would have ever thought I'd be betting Panthers lines outside of Chuba Hubbard doing 60 yards? But Chuba's had nearly close to 100 in all of his last 5 games. There was one in there, 153 yards against the Giants, who were woeful against the rush as well, just as we know the Cowboys have been all year. Adam Thielen has been, the last 2 games, 99 and then 100 yards through the air in the last 2 games. And him and, Bryce Young just seem to have a pretty good connection down the field when they need the games the most, or when they need the scores the most. So I'm going to go those 2 for 90-plus respectively for their rush and receiving yards. And the third one, as we talked about just a minute earlier, when Nick mentioned the Cleveland Browns potentially beating Kansas City. I think if the Browns play the way they have been and they start slinging the ball early and running up points, I think it's going to be a bit too far for the Kansas City Chiefs to be able to come back from. And that's going to be a beautiful thing. And of course, that will all mean that Jameis needs to sling that rock, baby. Sling that rock, Jameis. 300 plus passing yards against the Chiefs for Jameis Winston this week. Let's go. Lord, deliver him from pick sixes. We need
Deliver
to
him the
get
win.
over the 300 plus. And it would be just like the Cleveland Browns the week after they've been eliminated from playoff contention to
But they
come
will-
out against the number one team in their conference and go, no, we're going to beat you. So it's going to happen. It's in the stars, Brad. I've read it. How about yours, Brad? Are your bets in the stars this week?
All right. So Brad's bangers.
That's actually a better name than I've had. Brad's Bangers. There we go. Thanks for changing that, Brad.
That's
Uh,
so my first one that I'm feeling really good about is the Vikings Chicago game. Chicago has a total of 57 yards on offense the last couple of games in the first half.
yeah.
So, and I just think
NFL, baby.
absolutely. And the Bears defense is giving up the highest explosive play rate in the NFL. So I am taking the Vikings at negative 3.5 in the first half. So put that that is almost sell your car.
Right.
That's sell your
Ooh,
motorcycle.
sell your horse.
That's yeah, exactly.
Sell your horse and carriage.
That's right. That's right. So Vikings are having to give 3.5 in the first half. I'm taking that one. So I
Yep.
believe big in that one. The other one is the Packers Seahawks. So I'm actually gonna. I know it's kind of cheating a little bit, but I'm gonna move that line. I'm gonna do an alternate line, and if I can move that line up to 7, I'm gonna take Seattle in that.
Seattle at +7.
At +7. Seattle at +7.
Nice.
And I might
Nice.
even, consider doing like a backdoor cover on that as well.
Mm.
And then the other one is that I kind of alluded to, but the Steelers versus the Eagles. I think that's going to be a really low scoring game. So I think I'm taking the under on that one at 42
Fun
and a half.
police.
So the fun police is out in full effect. So Steelers,
What's the-
Eagles,
what-
I'm taking the under at 42 and a half.
42 and a half.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a terrible game.
Yes, it is.
That is a terrible game. That's a Jags Titans kind of game. That one.
Oh gosh.
Talk about unders.
Yeah.
All right, perfect, boys. 9 bets for our listeners to get behind and run with as a sell your horse special. So get behind it all, have a bit of fun with us, and hit us up with any of your bets. And of course, the betting information on Gday Gridiron is provided for informational and entertainment purposes only. There are no guarantees that the tips we provide will provide success or profit. All sports tips provided are our opinions, and punters are encouraged to use this information in order to form their own opinion about the outcome of a sporting event. Bet at your own risk. Bet at your own risk, and always consider what you could lose before placing a bet. Wonderful show, boys. We've gone overtime a little bit. We've given the listeners a bit more content than they probably need. I was about to say deserve, but no, they deserve a lot.
They
That's
deserve the world.
They deserve the world. Exactly, Brad. Well, thank you for saving me there. It's late at night. We're all tired. I'm on an absolute heater this week and over the last 3 weeks on AGN shows. This will be, by the time you hear this, and then you hear the Aussie NFL Fantasy Sunday show with the Starts of the Week show that'll come out tomorrow when you're listening to this. That show will have been my 12th Aussie Gridiron Network show in 3 weeks. So
Bloody hell.
Ian is looking forward to a rest. I'm even considering maybe tapping out for the Christmas week of shows just so I can have a rest. But we'll see how we go with that. Of course, we do have Christmas coming up. Big time in the NFL. Big time for us as Australians watching the NFL because we get to sit down on public holidays and watch heaps of football and some pretty good games to boot. So we're going to try and preview some of those in the coming week. We'll be back on Wednesday morning with a reaction show. So please tune in for that. As I said, Aussie NFL Fantasy Show, starts of the week show, will be on Sunday, so day after this. If you haven't listened to the Friday show, go and listen to that hilarity with myself, Taylor, and Maddie, where we talked for far too long and made way too many dick and poo jokes once again. So check all that out. You can check it all out on our Linktree /Aussie Gridiron Network, where you'll find links to all the podcasts, everything we do at the Aussie Gridiron Network, including merch store links. So get on there. It's still not too late to buy your friends and loved ones some presents for Christmas or just for whatever, really. So get in and do that. And until next week, on behalf of myself, Nick, and Brad, thank you very much for listening once again, and we will catch you on the other side of week 15.
The Gday Gridiron podcast is brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network, a network of Australian podcasts bringing the fun and a little bit of the Aussie larrikin to the NFL and fantasy football. Check out our other amazing productions. Australia's #1 fantasy football podcast, the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Everything about the local game at Aussie Gridiron today. Manjot's Pastry Press on Instagram and YouTube, and Australia's very own Dynasty podcast, No Huddle Dynasty. Find links to everything at Linktree /Aussie Gridiron Network.